The most significant civil rights struggle in deaf history began small, with a group of young Gallaudet alumni who shared a dream: a deaf president for Gallaudet.
There were very, very few people who could envision having a deaf president of Gallaudet. During the summer of 1987, when we knew the president was leaving, we felt it would be a good idea to start talking about a deaf president, to get the word out.
We looked at other universities, such as historically black colleges. Their presidents were black. And we thought, well, you know, they're already doing it. Why can't we have a deaf president at Gallaudet?
Some people said, how could a deaf president be a good recruiter for students? How could they do fundraising if they were deaf? How would a deaf person be able to communicate well? And so, in a way, they were asking questions about our own value and our own ability to get along in the world.
The crucial moment arrived in March 1988. The Board of Trustees had chosen 3 finalists, 1 hearing, 2 deaf. But on March 6th, the board made its choice. The new president was Dr. Elizabeth Zinser, the only hearing candidate. As the news spread, a protest began.
You! What?
Everybody was mad.
When? The world! God damn it!
We were ready to get arrested. Then Gary Olson, who was the former executive director of the NAD, stood up and got everybody's attention. And he said, we're standing here in the middle of the street, in the middle of the cold, and we don't know what to do. The board is over there at the Mayflower Hotel, drinking their fancy wine, eating delicious food, and laughing at us. Talk about inciting a group of people. Then we just all started to move.
We didn't even know where the hotel was. We had no idea where we were going. We just came out of the front gate and started marching. And the police kept coming up and saying, you can't march. You don't have a permit. But we just kept on walking.
According to DC, please, you'll be arrested. Your position.
Okay, wait. I want an announcement. The board will meet. We have a meeting with 2 representatives. Tim, Rarez, and Rosen.
Oh. The rest of the group,
The people in the rest of the
600,
group.
700 people,
600,
1,000,
1,000
said
people.
they will not wait for
They
you
will not
any
wait
longer.
for you any longer.
They cannot wait for you. They will move. They will keep up.
That was just mind-boggling to the board, because we as a group showed up wanting an answer. Why did you pick Dr. Zinser?
You say that the woman Zinser is the best qualified? The best qualified? I don't know what Zinser can do that King and Corson cannot do. But what? Exactly what?
I want you to try to give her a chance. Let her talk to you. When the campus...
A lot of student leaders started emerging when the protest began. And they immediately went and hot-wired some school buses. Hearing people were shocked to learn that deaf people knew how to hotwire. But they took all the buses, blocked all the exits, and flattened the tires.
What followed was the most celebrated event in deaf history. For 7 days, the Deaf President Now movement held rallies and press conferences, took over the campus TV station, and shut down classes. The protesters controlled the campus. Even the vice president found himself locked out.
The board refused to change their minds, but agreed to a public meeting with the students in the gym on Monday.
Good afternoon, everybody. All right. Tim, Lawrence, I don't know where you are. Are you around somewhere?
As soon as the chairman, Jane Spillman, started talking, Dr. Harvey Goodstein cut her off, and he said, The board has not agreed to our demands. There's no point in listening. Let's go. And then the fire alarms went off. There were a lot of lights. It was noisy. But for deaf people, you know, there was no noise. It was just some flashing lights. Time to get out of the building. And Spillman, you could see Spillman waving her hand, trying to get people's attention. And they just ignored her and left. And then she said, "How can you understand me with all this noise?"
The world jumped into the wagon with us. Really, that's what hit me the most. I could see students' faces. You could see it in their eyes. They just started to light up. This is something we can do. Students were realizing, wow, the press actually showed up and listened to us. And that's when I said, oh, this is for real.
What are you and other students going to do if the board does not change its mind and Ms. Zinsser does become the president?
We will stay with our demands. We will not give up. We will not concede. We do not feel at this point that we can compromise. We have been conceding so many things for so many years that we feel that this time it's their turn to compromise and make the concessions.
They are not going to give in. What will you do?
Well, at this point in time, I am serving as president. I came into Washington today not having anticipated taking on my responsibilities.
But when the newly appointed president came to Washington, she could not set foot on the Gallaudet campus. The protesters simply refused to budge.
Are the students prepared to continue blocking the entrance as long as the board refuses to meet the demands?
We give up our soul in order to get a deaf president.
I remember being interviewed by a reporter from Jerusalem. And he wanted to know what was happening, why we were doing this. And I just said, I'm doing this for my parents. They have suffered. They have been discriminated against and oppressed.
We tend to view the majority as being the oppressor, in that they really don't want us to succeed. But during that week, during the protest, ABC News took a poll, and they asked people if they supported the protest. They found 93% of the population supported us. 93%. I have never seen 93% in a poll like that before.
I want to say to you, in your own language, I love you. This is where the American Postal Workers Union stands.
Support came from all over. Groups across the country sent money and help.
Assign 3 times, please assign us 3 times for the people here. Deaf president now.
Everywhere, students shut down deaf schools. Even politicians chimed in. Jesse Jackson and the Vice President, George Bush, sent letters of support.
We felt a real connection to the civil rights fight. We even borrowed the banner, "We Have a Dream," that came from the civil rights marches. We were so proud to be able to carry that.
In Washington today, some 2,500 jubilant Gallaudet students and their supporters rallied on Capitol Hill after forcing the resignation of the newly named president at the School for the Deaf. Elizabeth Ann Zinsser resigned last night after being named to the post Sunday. Students shut the school down all week with their protest. Today, they vowed to press for other demands.
Today, I submitted my resignation from the chairmanship of the Board of Trustees of Gallaudet University and from the board.
Unconditional surrender. After a 9-hour meeting, the trustees accepted all the student demands. DPN changed American politics. People who were supposedly unable to handle responsibility had organized a powerful protest, taken over a college, and won. 2 years later, Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act, a law that made it illegal to discriminate against people with disabilities.
It's interesting. When I talked to my kids about what happened, they were so surprised. There was a hearing president? And I'm like, yes, there was a hearing president.
All of the future presidents of Gallaudet will be deaf. I would guess they'll all be deaf in different ways. Oh, one person will be deaf in his or her way, and another person will be deaf in his or her way, and that's fine. So I work to encourage people to understand that there's not one way to be deaf.
Deafness, in a sense, is a pliable state, a way of being that can be changed or shaped, like a marshmallow.